Greetings friends, Jennifer Nicole Campbell here, and today on this episode of Music Musings, we're going to be exploring the subject of grief. I know that's not exactly a fun subject, but I recently lost a very dear friend of mine, Mr. Bill Conville, and I've been thinking a lot about grief and what that process is like, and this particular piece by Chopin, his Prelude in E minor, really does to me give a portrait of what it's like to grieve someone, to lose someone. And it's a process that never really ends on this physical plane. And whether you lost a loved one yesterday or years ago, I think it's a piece of music that can give us a lot of comfort, a lot of peace. And I'm going to try to talk about why that is. So this particular episode is dedicated to Bill Conville, and I hope you find it meaningful. One thing that's rather intriguing to me is that this piece is so popular, yet it's a very sad piece. It's kind of a downer, to be honest with you, but there's something very powerful about the message of the piece. So we'll talk a little bit about that as we go through. When Chopin was writing this, he was quite sick. As many of you probably know, he suffered from tuberculosis, and he had nothing to really soothe him, and so he was suffering from all those symptoms. And at the same time, I think it's always important to remember, Chopin left his homeland at the young age of just 21 years old, never to return back there. So a lot of his music, I feel like he's always constantly trying to go back to Poland, trying to go back to his family where he could see them, which sadly he was unable to do. So Chopin often had these feelings of depression and especially isolation. He felt quite alone in the world, if you will. So this piece it's almost like one really long sentence. It's hard to stop anywhere in the piece without feeling like it needs to go on. It has to go on. Let's explore the melody. So this is how the piece begins. You see what I mean about it's really hard to find a place to stop. Let's take a look at this melody first of all. I mean, Chopin, wow, really knocked it out of the park with that melody. You know, I mean, talk about boring. Right? It's just two notes, and then it keeps going down. I heard this wonderful presentation by Benjamin Zander, if you have a chance, look it up. And he said the purpose of this C is to make the B sad. I thought that was really brilliant. So why is that sad? It's this sigh, this feeling of coming down, and to the same note. In this case, we're starting on the dominant. The other thing is the left hand is not in root position. It's in first inversion, so it gives us this sense of feeling suspended up like that instead of that's more grounded. And the other thing is that the left hand is moving one note at a time, and it's always descending down. That's what I mean by it's kind of a downer. So it starts up and it's going down, and you might just kind of eventually, not off to sleep if you were sitting there, but we're going to try to pay attention, not fall asleep. I'll try not to make you fall asleep. Notice also that your left-hand rhythm is just a bunch of eighth notes. It's kind of less hovering kind of march in a sense. So it's staying suspended. That's another really important thing, the rhythm. So where does the downward motion go to? So we start here, and he's going down, and you think, all right, three blind mice, right? But instead, he goes to G sharp, which is rather unusual. So, and that's really squeezing the note towards A, right? If he had G there instead, what would it sound like? It's somehow more, first of all, it would be a dominant seventh chord. You think it would be go to C major, but he doesn't want us to feel rested quite yet. That's certainly the most motion that we've had. It's almost like that cry for help. I wish you were here kind of feeling to it. It doesn't stay for very long. He goes back to this T-dum kind of rhythm. T-dum. Remember, the rhythm of the right hand at the beginning is 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Again, this sense of we're almost stuck in some way. We're stuck in this feeling of sadness or grief. But there's slightly more. Right, and he does add a little decoration there. Ta-dum. So slight little breath there. Da-dum, dee-dum, da-da-da-dum. Again, he's really avoiding this feeling of being rested. So he's basically going everywhere but home. And that's interesting because the very beginning, right? It goes to B, it doesn't go. So the sense of reaching further, reaching for that person that's not with you, or reaching further for that feeling, and coming back down to B. This moment's also really important because the left hand actually cuts out for the first time since the beginning of the piece. Almost like the feeling I often think about if you're sitting by yourself and you're looking at the rain outside the window, you see it coming down. And you're thinking about that special person that you haven't seen in a while, or that's passed. Or just general feeling of sadness. I feel lonely, right? A lot of people are feeling lonely right now. So Chopin understands. That kind of thing. So we go back to our original melody. He changes some of the chords. Did you hear it? Instead of F sharp, it's F, okay? And that kind of spells out what we call a French sixth chord. Oh, okay. Changes the flavor. It's a little darker. Here comes. And I always hate to stop because I feel like I gotta get to the end. I'll play the whole thing through at the end. So what's happening here? All of a sudden this energy seems to burst out of nowhere. And to me it's like it's so overwhelming. He just reaches out and just lets it go, because this that's a really big stretch there to go from A sharp to G, right? And it's again, you think he could go so, and he could end it in that drastic way, but he follows through with these feelings of overwhelming grief, I would say. That's one very rare root position chord we have in the piece. And then you think it's going to go. Not yet. We're not going to E yet. What's Chopin doing there? Okay, so instead of going, which would be the normal route that you would take harmonically, Chopin does a tool called a deceptive cadence. So he's taking you somewhere you didn't think you were going to go, to C major. And this to me is like that little light at the end of the tunnel. You're starting to see the clouds are starting to lift. And so the right hand, you think, oh, here's the E, and that is our tonic. So we should be feeling at home. But the chords are different. He's playing the wrong chords. See? That's not right. That's not right. How about this one? No. And then pause. Fermata. Wait. So Chopin is able to pull us along on this journey where it's like a long sentence without any commas. And he achieves that through his use of the harmony, the melody, melody. You know, it's more like a group of sighs, if you will. And through the use of, I'm not going to go to this tonic chord at all costs, right? And so I think the ultimate message of the piece, even though it really is a downer, literally, this is where we end at the bottom of the piano, it has to do with Chopin saying, I understand what you're going through. And that's the beauty and the connectivity of human experience, is that you can connect with someone based off of an experience. And everybody has experienced missing a loved one or losing a loved one. And so Chopin is telling us it's okay and I understand. And it gives some sense of comfort to know that someone else has been there, right? And to think that a man that lived in the 1800s could have an effect on here we are, 2020. It's just truly remarkable. So maybe think about the effect that you can have on somebody, and that effect could last for many, many years. The domino effect, right? You just don't know. So it's almost a lesson too that we need to be careful with our words and our music making. And I hope that this video brought you a little bit of comfort, a little bit of peace, and maybe some understanding about Chopin's Prelude in E minor. If you like this video, be sure to like, share, subscribe, and we'll see you next time.